What is up, my friends? How are we? You're very welcome along to Wednesday night's late night agenda. Now, before we get stuck into all the topics of the day, just a quick update to what people are saying. There is sound. I don't know why Alex is saying no sound. There's absolutely sound, my man. Anyway, let's get into the chat. So, it's not done, Kerkez stuff. I think people need to relax on that. It is done. It's absolutely done. But what isn't done is some small formalities with regards to visa requirements and stuff like that. So the contract is signed, the paperwork is signed, everything is done. There's just some niggly bits to go through. But again, everything is done and dusted. He will be a Liverpool player. There's just some technical things that need to be worked out. So let's not start spreading false information to say the transfer is not done. If you read the full context of what Ornstein said, it just means that there's a couple of little tweaks to go. So yeah, nothing to be concerned about there. He's already departed the UK. Once that's confirmed, he'll be able to come back into the UK. So yeah, nothing to be concerned about in that regard. It is all sorted, bar these little bits of red tape, bits of bureaucratic nonsense about visas and stuff like that. So wouldn't be too concerned about it. It won't be any issue. It's just, sometimes when the government get involved, these things move a little bit more slowly. So we will get that announcement. And look, your guess is as good as mine as to when we get it, but it should hopefully be soon enough. Right, let's get into the chat. David, how are we? Hi Craig, hope you're well. Loving the transfer stuff. Keep it going. Do a great job. The Isak stuff just won't go away. It won't, but it's moving to the point now where all eyes are going to be on Alexander Isak and his agent when he comes back from his holiday for Newcastle's pre-season camp. Nobody, and I include Newcastle in this, seems to know exactly what way he's going to go with this. Is he going to push for a move? Well, we'll talk through it all tonight. We'll give you the latest updates. We'll talk about what may happen. But as you've all correctly said, Liverpool's interest here just hasn't gone away and isn't going away. So we'll go through it. Sorry, I've got a hair in my eye that's bugging me. I don't know how because there's none on my head. So, right. The Wonder Man said, "Evening, Craig. How are you doing tonight?" I'm good, buddy. I'm good. It's my wife's birthday today, so let me just start off by saying happy birthday to my amazing wife. She's not here at the minute. She's out with the gym, but yeah, spending the day together with her. And I love this 3 months because for the next 3 months, my wife is 3 months older than me. So technically, she's a year older than me for the next 3 months. So I get to call her an old woman for the next 3 months, and I feel like a toy boy, So look. Let's get stuck into the chat tonight. We do have an under-21s coach announcement, by the way. This has just happened over the past couple of hours. Liverpool have confirmed that Rob Page, former Welsh national team manager, has been announced as the new coach of Liverpool's under-21 squad. So best of luck to Rob in his new job. Obviously, we hope he does well. But that was announced officially earlier on. Rob Page, former Welsh head coach, is now the Liverpool under-21 coach. Obviously, Barry Lutas departed earlier on in the summer, so it was everybody's waiting to see what the announcement was being. I think that's a brilliant bit of business by Liverpool Football Club to bring Rob Page in, and certainly wish him nothing but the best. Right, Mav, how are we, dude? Isak for 200 million or Ekitike and Oshiman for the same 200 million. So again, they're not like comparing apples and apples because there's two sets of wages then on top of that. But look, I've said this over and over, Mav. I don't think that Alexander Isak is worth £200 million, nor do I believe Liverpool would think he's worth £200 million. So, yeah, I don't expect us to spend that money if it does happen. But it isn't going away, like you've said. Liverpool are willing to move for Isak if he shows an indication that it is possible. It's all going to come down to the conversations that he has with Newcastle when he comes back from holidays, because Newcastle have their own concerns around this situation. And it comes from the Daily Mirror. They say the problem is that giving Alexander Isak an enormous contract at Newcastle will threaten the stability of their changing room. Because if they give Isak a big contract, the likes of Bruno Guimaraes and Sandro Tonali are probably going to come knocking saying, we'll have some of that money, thank you very much. And that will land Newcastle in a problem. So right now, as we've said, it isn't going away. There is no indication that it's going to happen imminently. But what I'm starting to see, read and hear a little bit is that Liverpool just are not giving up on Isak just yet. They feel that there is still a potential of it maybe happening. But let's talk about the numbers involved in that, what may happen. There's even a report today linking us with ENQUIRIES, which is absolute pony of the highest order. CM Jornal, who I believe are a Portuguese outlet, they say that Sporting striker Victor Gyökeres is one of Liverpool's targets to reinforce their attack. I can tell you categorically, 100% he isn't. He is not on Liverpool's list of targets, nor will he ever be. And this is, again, just trying to, I guess, get business round up there for Sporting Lisbon. We know Arsenal were interested, United were interested, but Liverpool are not interested in Victor Gyökeres. Right, let's get into some of your comments and see what you're thinking. Hey, Craig, if it means we win a treble, would you think Isak be worth it then? Hey, look, dude, if they sign Isak, I'm not going to complain about it. It ain't my money that the club would be spending, but I can't see a world where we spend it on him. Like, it's £200 million. So if you get him for 120, absolutely. Maybe even go up a little bit higher if there's a bit of player trading in it. And I also seen a couple of things in the chat around Harvey Elliott, and I knew a few of you would have match of the day fever about Harvey. It looks like he's going to leave the club, folks. Now, I know we played a belter for England again today, and congratulations to England on the under-21s making it to the Euros final. But Harvey Elliott will be departing Liverpool this summer because, one, his game time is going to be even more reduced than it was previously, and two, Liverpool and him probably won't need the money and he needs to go and play football. So I'm sure, and I agree, that he's a brilliant player. You know my thoughts on Harvey. I love him, but, you know, one good tournament with Liverpool isn't going to change the fact that we've already got 3 or 4 people ahead of him in the pecking order, and he will probably depart this summer. Right, Craig, when will Kerkez get announced? We don't know, mate. We don't know. The simple answer is nobody at this point knows exactly when he's going to be announced. We're just all waiting for the announcement. But again, I want to reiterate, you've nothing to be concerned about. The paperwork is done. The contract is signed till 2030. It's just some red tape and some issues, we believe, around the visa. I say issues. They won't be issues. It's going to be a formality. But, you know, when the government get involved in any of these things, it sometimes drags out for a few days. Might raise his value. Well, certainly that Lukey boy would be a good show. There's certainly the possibility that Harvey Elliott will now attract even more people to him because he's shown what a good footballer he is, and I don't think any of us have ever really doubted what a good player Harvey Elliott is. But unfortunately, you know, when you've brought in Wirtz, and we know Jones is ahead of him in the pecking order, McAllister, Szoboszlai, there just isn't going to be the opportunity for him to get the minutes, and that's what it's about for Elliott. It's not that Liverpool don't like him, it's not that he doesn't like Liverpool. He just doesn't want his career to be petering away while he sits on the bench, and I totally understand that. For us, it's about getting the right move for him, and of course the right deal for the club. Craig, reckon we should keep Harvey and Darwin and Chiesa out the window. Again, why would we keep Elliott to stick him on the bench? I know people want to hype him up a bit more because he scored 2 for England today and has had a great tournament, but it doesn't change anything. What you, I, or anybody else thinks is irrelevant because Arne Slot just doesn't want to give him the game time, and he is going to be sold this summer. Even look at him at the end of the season, you could see in the way he was speaking and his body language, he knows he's going to move as well. Now, what it may do, as you've said, is get Liverpool a few more clubs interested and give Harvey many more options. And sincerely, I want Harvey to go and play football, but he won't be doing that at Liverpool, and that's the problem. Where are we gonna find the game time to give to him? It just isn't there. It wasn't there last season, and now we've added more players into that area of the pitch. It's just unfortunately not going to happen. And I say this as an unashamed Harvey Elliott fan. I love the guy. Stick a buyback clause on Elliott's deal might be worth doing. Potentially, yeah. Look, I love Elliott and I don't want him to go, but I can understand the thought process from the club side and from his side. There just isn't the availability to give him the minutes that he needs to really kick on. You know, players need to be playing at least once a week anyway. And at his age, you know, he doesn't want to be sitting around, and I get it. It's difficult. We all like him as fans, but truth of the matter is, we seen last season, it's not that he wasn't fit. Arne just was not giving him the opportunities, and after bringing in Florian Wirtz, I can't see that changing. Adrian said, I love Harvey and he loves the club, but he's behind Dom and Flo, but hopefully he'll bring a nice fee that will help us buying the players we want. He's also probably behind Curtis Jones, if we're being honest about that as well. But look, let's get into some of the news today, and let's start off, if we can, with a conversation around Darwin Núñez, because there's conflicting reports about quite how close his potential move to Napoli is. Some people believe that it's very close. So, for instance, Gerardo Fasano, an Italian journalist, reckons that Liverpool are close to agreeing a fee for €45 million plus €5 million in bonuses for Darwin Núñez. But then Alfredo Padula, another Italian journalist, said that Liverpool have a bit of a gap in the valuation. So Napoli are hoping to pay between 40 and €42 million, and Liverpool are looking to get about €50 million. So again, there's about an €8 million gap. But then you go on to another one from Lewis Steele, and the gap's even bigger here. He said Darwin Núñez is giving his preference, or sorry, this is Ben Jacobs, my apologies. Darwin Núñez is giving his preference to Napoli, with him also being the Serie A champions' top target. Liverpool are yet to receive a bid, but aware one is likely to be forthcoming soon. An offer close to €70 million is required to sanction an exit, said Ben Jacobs. So I don't know which one of those is true. I don't know if any of them are true. But again, this situation with Darwin Núñez and Napoli does look to be a genuine one, where Napoli do want to sign him. Craig, do you agree that signing a striker and a centre-back will be enough this window after Kerkez? Said AJ. It depends on outgoings. Off the top of my head, no. You know, I'm going to be really honest about this. If Chiesa moves on and Darwin moves on, I'd like to see a winger brought in as well as a centre-forward, because I think we could do it given an option on the right-hand side for Mo cover. I think if we lose Diogo Jota, then we could bring in another versatile forward that can maybe play across the front line. But ultimately, yeah, a centre-back is where we're at right now. That's the preference for me, by the way. A centre-back. That's what we need. It's strange how we haven't seen an announcement. It isn't. It's very straightforward if you listen or read. It's due to some technical issues. There's nothing to do with a problem. There's nothing to do with a disagreement or the fee not being paid or any of that stuff. It's as simple as there just being some red tape that needs to be cleared up with visas and stuff like that. And then we'll get the announcement. But again, just to reiterate, everything is signed. There's nothing to be concerned about. Milos Kerkez is a Liverpool player in all but the announcement from the club, because they have to wait for the boxes to be ticked at the home office or wherever they sort out the visas. Any news on Robbo? Nope, still on holidays, and again, the final decision will probably come down to him about what he wants to do for his future. And then if he does decide that maybe he wants to move over to Atletico Madrid, then of course Liverpool and Atleti will have to agree a fee. Right, can we move our attention to Ibu for a second? Because I want to get your thoughts on the situation with the offer Madrid are apparently going to put forward. So Called Offside and a few others have reported that Madrid are willing to sign KONATE if they can get him for £25 million. Now, I don't believe there's any hope in hell that Liverpool will sell KONATE for £25 million. But more worryingly, it doesn't look as if there's much positive news on him potentially staying. And that's what concerns me, because more and more stuff's starting to come out, and we've seen this play out before. So I very firmly hope that Liverpool can get him to a stay. But what we said yesterday, that Arne Slot had spoken with Marc Guehi and given him assurances about him coming in to be the eventual successor to Virgil and his partner and guaranteeing him game time, that makes me feel like they believe KONATE is going to leave. Now again, please don't take this as gospel. It's just me giving a view on it. But my gut feeling right now, I think he's going to leave. I don't want him to, but I think he will. So let me see what you guys think. I'm going to ask straight out, do you think he will leave this summer? Because we've done this every few days and we want to see how people's feelings are. Right, so there we go. Will KONATE leave this summer? Yes or no? And we'll come back to this one. Striker Atalanta is 25 and won the Golden Boot in Serie A. I'd go for him. So, look, I don't mean this to sound rude, because I include myself in this one, Gary. But our scouting of any player is going to be irrelevant compared to the amount of information that Liverpool will have. They'll know all about Retigui or however you pronounce his name at Atalanta. They'll know about him. They'll have data on hundreds of strikers. And they'll have the names that they have on their list. And I just don't know who they are, mate. So, I've always been honest about that. I don't know who Liverpool's preference is for the striker position, but there are a couple of names that are strongly linked. Like we've said, Isak. We've spoken the fact that Ekitike, his name hasn't gone away yet. So I really just don't know what happens after that. We would only get Guehi if Ibu leaves. That's absolutely incorrect. He's coming in to replace Jarell Quansah, mate, like I've said multiple times at this point. And we will be getting him when the Quansah deal is sorted out. They're going to make the move for Marc Guehi, who has already given some assurances as well. It's got nothing to do with Ibrahima Konate. Ibrahima Konate is just a side distraction at the minute. And if he moves, then we'll probably bring in another player on top of that. So, I don't want the narrative to be that Guehi is only coming in if Konate goes, because Guehi is coming in one way or the other. And if Konate stays, then we just have more competition. Well, sorry, I say the interest in Guehi is to do with Quansah moving on. So don't be looking at it that it's going to be him to come in if Konate goes. It's when Quansah goes, Marc Guehi will be the one that Liverpool look to go after. Or Jurel Haddo, if Liverpool can't get to an agreement with Crystal Palace. Now, Haddo's, of course, was part of the Dutch under-21 side that lost to England today. So his tournament is now over, meaning maybe you could approach him now at this point because he's no tournament distracted him. Would you sign Patrick Schick? No, I don't think he's anywhere near good enough. Remember, we're not shopping in the make-do category now. We're shopping in the world beater category. That's what Liverpool need as a centre forward. We need the finished article. So 3 realistic names that you guys have all mentioned are, of course, Ekitike, Osimhen, seems like it could be semi-realistic, and Isak. They're the 3 names that we're hearing over and over and over and over again from journalists and other people. So yeah, look, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. As I've always said, I think there's going to be a bit of a lull in our transfer business now with regards to incomings. More likely that you'll see Liverpool start to move some players on. And in that, let's talk a little bit about Tyler Morton for a minute, because there is interest in him coming from West Ham. So this report here said that Liverpool are obviously open to selling Tyler Morton this summer, and West Ham have been keeping an eye on him and his progress at the European Championships. So maybe we will see a bid come in there. And Tyler Morton would be somebody that Liverpool would be open to selling this summer, especially with James McConnell now being somebody who the manager has, great fondness for. Arsenal shopping in the make-do so far. Yeah, their business, Sam, hasn't been great. Norgaard's a fairly steady signing, don't get me wrong. He's a decent player, Christian Norgaard. But they aren't exactly striking the fear into us, are they, with some of the signings they've made? Like Zubimendi, like we've said, very good player. I would have had him at Liverpool. We all would have been happy with him. But apart from that, yeah, they're certainly moving slowly in this market. And Norgaard, how many midfielders do they need, by the way? Can we have that conversation? Christopher said Isak wants a move. I believe he does, mate. I genuinely believe he does want to move to Liverpool Football Club. Yeah. It's just a matter of, again, he probably won't want to kick up too much of a fuss at Newcastle in case the move doesn't happen. And then, yeah. Coldman said, I believe Guehi is Konate replacement. You can believe what you fucking want, bro. I'm telling you the answer. Konate has been brought in because Jarell Quansah is getting sold. You can believe what you want, but I'm telling you what the facts are. The facts are Quansah is getting sold and Guehi's been looked at as the replacement because we got the money for him. It's as simple as that. After that, it depends what happens with Konate, yes, but what I would say is certainly Liverpool have looked at it from the perspective of we need that assurance of a leader in the defence if Konate goes. So from that perspective, yes, perhaps, but I'm more concerned about the numbers of centre-backs, to be honest with you folks. In my opinion, we haven't replaced Matip yet. And if we haven't replaced Matip, I don't like the idea of us just offloading centre-backs and then cutting the number shorter even more. So for me, we need one centre-back if Quansah comes out. We need to know what's happening with Nalo. Is he being kept around? And I would argue we need another centre-back already. So if Konate leaves, I certainly want another centre-back. I wouldn't mind going into next season with Konate, Virgil, Konate, Virgil, Guehi, and Gomez. That'd be great. I'd happily take those 4 centre-backs going into the next season. But I just get the feeling we're not going to be able to keep KONATE unless something drastically happens. I've seen somebody in the chat, why 5 centre-backs? You always need 4 and then a younger one. Because one injury and somebody, let's say, getting a suspension and then you're in trouble. So most top clubs will have 4 centre-backs. And if you look at what we have this season, we were very fortunate that we didn't pick up an injury. And we already had occasions where we had to shoehorn people in at centre-back. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with it anyway. I just don't want us to be cut short again or caught short again. I think Marc Guehi's genius, by the way. I think it's a genius piece of business if Liverpool can get it done. And I'd love for KONATE to stay. Because, God, can you imagine the competition for places? If you had KONATE, Joe Gomez, Virgil, and Marc Guehi all competing for a place, that'd be brilliant. Right, let's keep going. More news to get through. Right, let's talk Malik Fofana a little bit. There are a few reports that are trying to make out, like, because of Lyon's situation with the relegation, that could kick on Liverpool's interest or Chelsea's interest in Malik Fofana. For what it's worth, I don't think that Lyon relegation will be decided this season one way or the other. Because if they appeal it, I think it'll kick on and they'll start the season in Ligue 1 anyway. So I don't think the panic sale is going to be this summer, but he is available. We know for about €50 million he would be available. Again, though, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know who Liverpool are targeting. I promised you 3 players, and they're the only 3 I was putting my neck on the line for, and Liverpool have signed them all. So after that, I'm just like the rest of you guys. I'm just waiting to see what happens. Guehi will keep the competition for places up. Yeah, like, he's only 24. He is a leader. Can play both centre-back positions. I think Marc Guehi would be really, really cool piece of business. And especially because of the contract situation. Like, Crystal Palace know they have to do something this summer because he isn't going to sign a new deal. And they're going to have to sell him. Now, what will they get for him? Well, of course, we'll try to lowball, I'm sure. And they'll try to aim for the stars. But I would imagine... And a few others seem to think that a 40 million quid, you might get a handshake and a deal for Marc Guehi. And look, if you're getting 35 million for Kwanzaa, including the add-ons, I think 40 million for Marc Guehi would be pretty good business. Haddo would be interesting. Haddo would be cool. That would be a really good addition. If we lost KONATE, maybe bringing in him or the likes of a Nathan Collins or somebody like that would be good. Joel Haddo is certainly, we know Virgil is a massive fan. You know, we've seen reports that he's spoken to the manager about him and really wants Liverpool to pursue him because he believes he's the best young defensive talent that the Netherlands have produced in a while. Robert Tring said 24 is young for a centre-back as well. Will probably be like 22 for a striker. Yeah, I would say 24 is not coming into his prime yet. You know, I would say centre-back's prime is probably 26 to 29, something in around that. Oh, dude, I'm with you. I'm right with you, bro. 100%. I'd give your left bollock as well. No, man, I'm with you. I would. I'd love Branthwaite. Stargirl, how are we? Rivals complaining about the money we're spending seem to forget it's taken many years for us to get to this position, and it's due to recent success. Yep. And they also seem to forget that Manchester City between January and now have spent about £280 million as well. But, you know, we're the problem because we haven't spent for 2 windows and then, you know, won the league title and have put some money together and we will sell players as well. But look, like I've said all the way through, Stargirl, let them moan because they're all shitting themselves. And that's the truth. And we should take great comfort in that as Liverpool fans. The opposition fans are shitting themselves right now because Liverpool's business is making a statement, making a splash, and it looks like we're setting up to mean business for the next few years, and long may that continue. Retegui's got better goals and assists than Isak. Yeah. What's your point, though? Like, you say this like the club don't know he exists. You know, the club aren't stupid. They're going to have dossiers on every single top striker and centre-back in the world. And they will have whittled through it all, and they'll look through the data, and they will find the best fit, and they will talk to Arne Slot. Arguing over who you and I think is better is just kind of wasting our time, because ultimately it doesn't matter what I think or what you think. It matters what Arne Slot, Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards think, and their decision's going to be the one that brings the striker in. And for what it's worth, when I've seen Retegui stunk the gaff up, when I've watched them playing for Italy, he's been horrendous. And also, I think we can do better than bringing in a player from Atalanta. Personally, I'm always nervous when you talk about Italian signings. Craig, why don't you do a poll on who's a better midfielder, Elliott or Curtis? Because it's pointless. What's the point of it? The manager has already made his decision, so what we argue about is irrelevant. We could sit here and debate on Elliott for the next 10 hours, but it's still not going to change the fact that the manager doesn't rate him and wants to sell him. So a poll on it's irrelevant. And 100% if I did the poll today, I'm telling you it'll be Elliott that wins it, because he scored 2 goals today and people have match of the day fever. I don't remember all this love for Elliott over the past month. I don't remember he scores 2 today for England and all of a sudden now history's been rewritten. I get it. It's understandable, but again, it doesn't matter what we think. Compare Guehi to Konate last season, said Lee. Guehi beats him on everything except aerial duels. Well, we ran the poll last night. We said, do you think that Marc Guehi would be an upgrade on Ibrahima Konate? And the answer was yes. The vote was that people sided with yes, it would be an upgrade. Now, I've got to be honest, I was a little bit surprised by it. I agree with it, but I was a little bit surprised by it. I think what I would say for Marc Guehi is he's more consistent than Konate. Konate on his best day is brilliant. He looks like an absolute monster. He's got the aerial ability, he's got the pace, obviously he's got the physicality, he can pick out a pass, but he does have the ability to have whoopsie moments. And I think that's something that has stuck out to Arne Slot and the Liverpool recruitment team. And that's also why I don't think they're willing to break the bank to give him a big contract. That's just my take on it. But, if Liverpool really thought that he was the be-all and end-all, well, they put the money down. We've seen that they've given the money to players who they believe have performed to the levels that they want. They've given Virgil his big deal. They've given Mo his big deal. They were willing to pay Trent. So I just think, I get the feeling Edwards has a question mark over Konate personally. Elliott is a genius. I wish Arne would have had more faith in him. Be a huge loss. You do know we've just signed Florian Wirtz, right? And with all due respect to Elliott, who I absolutely love, Florian Wirtz is a potential Ballon d'Or winner who's come into the club. So, let's not make out like we're shafting ourselves here. We're getting rid of a player who the manager doesn't want to give minutes to and who needs to play. So, where are you playing him? Because right now you've got Szoboszlai, Curtis Jones, McAllister, Gravenberch, Wirtz, all ahead of him in the pecking order in one way or another. I know Gravenberch plays in a deeper line position, but even if you take that out, Elliott's not going to play that position. So he's got Jones, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Wirtz, all ahead of him. He's got young Rio coming through, who's going to be an attacking player as well. Just won't be the availability to give it to him. Right wing, he's terrible on the right wing. Have you seen him play out there? He's not the pace to go past anybody. So, again, can debate it all you want, but the facts are out there. The manager doesn't want to give him the game time. So it should be just about trying to get the most money we can and the right move for Harvey, because, we're all fans of Harvey Elliott. We want him to go and play. Playing with the 21s is a different ball game altogether. Yeah, it is, completely. And he's done brilliant. He's done really, really good. And I'm glad that he's starting to show what he can do, because I'm glad more people are getting to see it. We've been big fans of Harvey Elliott here on the channel for many years, but if I was in his shoes, especially with Wirtz coming in, you got to look at last season and just think, right, well, if he wasn't going to get the chances, what are the hopes of him getting it now that we've brought in more talent ahead of him? It's just, we'd be just hoarding a player and begrudging him the chance to go and play regularly, which you need to do at this age. You need to be starting to play regularly. Lots of people asking about the Kerkez announcement. The honest answer is there is some technicality, and we believe it's something to do with visas or something like that, that is delaying it. The paperwork is signed. Everything is done. There's nothing to be concerned about. It will be announced in the next, well, I don't even want to say in the next because I don't know, but it will be announced in due course. And honestly, hand on heart, you've nothing to be concerned about. Milos Kerkez is a Liverpool player. That's all we need to be concerned about. Look, I want to see the announcement as well. Same as you guys. I'm excited to see it. And also, I want to see Vert signing day vlog. That's something I've been waiting for as well. That's going to be really cool when we get to see that one. Right, so we've asked, will KONATE leave this summer? So if you haven't voted, please do. There's still plenty of time to do it, and thank you to everyone that's voted so far. Right, my dream centre-back signing would be Pacho at PSG, imagine. Well, we had a chance to move for him before, obviously, they made the move to PSG, and they will not sell him now because he's done brilliantly there. It was a good piece of business by PSG on him, but I can see why you like him, mate. Very good player. And then look, I'm a bit late to the party. I didn't really start to pay attention to Pacho until I start watching us against PSG, and then I've kind of followed a bit since. But yeah, he looks really good. S14 said, sorry, I got on late, so this might have been already asked, but is there any other reason delay for Kerkez announcement? Just the technical stuff, mate. That's it. That's all we're waiting for. And I know people got a bit panicky when they seen the David Ornstein post, but if you look at it properly, he just basically says it's just a delay in it. You know, it is all signed, sealed, and delivered. But I won't even pretend to know the intricacies of the UK work visa situation. But yeah, it will have to be something simple like that that's delaying it a little bit. Right, what else we got? Stephen. Craig, if KONATE leaves, Guehi comes in, we still need one more centre-back in my opinion. 100%, bro. 100%. I'd like us to try get in Pierre Nkapie or Kosunu. I hope you're well. Oh, mate, look, I know sure a thing. I think everybody would agree with you that if we lost KONATE as well as Kwanzaa, one more centre-back would be absolutely required. I think we'll all agree with you on that one. It's been a tough situation, though, because I like Ibu. We all like Ibu. And I want him to stay. And I agree he deserves a significant pay bump. But I just get the feeling that Liverpool aren't willing to break the bank for him. That's my gut in this. And that Liverpool would keep him at a certain level, at a certain value. But if he wants more guaranteed money up front, I don't know if Liverpool are going to do that, because if Marc Guehi comes in and KONATE stayed, who starts? You know, who becomes the regular partner for Virgil van Dijk? I would say the money would be on Marc Guehi because he's more consistent. Swift Doyle said, as a lifelong Liverpool fan and in all due respect, does all polls here really make any difference? No, not at all. It's just a way for us to gauge how fans are feeling, mate. That's it. You know, I'm not saying that if we vote this poll that this is the way it's going to work out. No, not at all. But it's always interesting to see how my fellow fans are feeling about a certain situation. And especially with the KONATE one, where there's not much out there in the public domain factual. You know, we don't know what's going on. So we're all just trying to figure it out together. Any idea when Georgie is coming in? Yeah, he will be in just before the 8th of July for the pre-season. And you're right, by the way. I'm as not concerned, because that's not the right word, but I'm as intrigued as everybody else as to why we haven't seen any media stuff yet with Georgie. But I'm sure we'll get it done when he comes in or just before the pre-season. KONATE just wants the same or near to VVD. He's on 85k a week. So firstly, he doesn't deserve to be anywhere in the same fucking stratosphere as Virgil van Dijk for money. Not a chance. And he's on about 75 grand a week, we think, not 85. But on top of that, he's asking, apparently, have to say that because I don't know this and you don't know this as a fact, he's asking about 200 grand. And remember, we've just signed Florian Wirtz for a British record fee and brought him in on 200 grand a week. There's just no world that I think Ibrahima KONATE is worth £200,000 a week. That's my opinion. I've been pretty honest and open about it since this saga happened. And again, irrelevant what I think or what you think, clearly the club have a similar feeling because they haven't given it to him. Right, where are we with this one? Carl, how are we, dude? Salah wasn't good enough when we signed him. Things can change. I'd rather keep Elliott than Jones. He's so negative. I've always been an Elliott fan. You can keep cry-arsing, Carl, about this on Discord and in here as much as you want. I've given you my answer multiple times, and it isn't going to change the fact that he's going to leave the club. You know, it isn't. Salah wasn't good enough when we signed him. Well, he was. That's, again, incorrect. Look at him when he was at Roma. He put up a record season of assists over there, giving Edin Dzeko goals on a plate. So, again, not true. And Elliott's been at the club for years now. So, again, it's not like we've just brought somebody in, not giving them a chance to move them on. This isn't about what we want. This is about us not having another player sitting on the bench next season that Arna won't give game time to. It's as simple as that. Like, we all had last season where we're looking at the bench going, he won't play Chiesa, he won't play Elliott. This is frustrating, right? So, after bringing in a world-class number 10 ahead of him, what makes us think that the manager's going to change his thinking? So, this isn't about you, me, or anybody else not liking Elliott. We all like Elliott. But the fact of the matter is, Arna doesn't seem to rate Elliott, and we can't change that. Sagan, how are we? I think Collins would be a bargain buy, top player and great leader on the pitch. Always plays left centre-back, you up the Irish. Oh, mate, I'm with you. I think, and I said this the other night, if his name was Colinciao from Brazil, this would be a different conversation. I'm not saying it's an anti-Irish thing. I'm saying it's not a sexy signing kind of name thing. And for me, I'd be all over Collins as well. I think he's been a leader everywhere he's been. Captain Stoke at 18. As we know as Irish people, he came through a cherry orchard, a very good Irish club. Got a good family in football as well. Still relatively young at I think 24. Played every single game in the Premier League last season. And I think he'd be a very astute piece of business if Liverpool could get him in. But I don't know what's going to happen. But Collins and Guehi, for me, if we sign those two and we lost KONATE and Kwanzaa, without any shadow of a doubt, I'm saying that's an upgrade on our centre-back situation. But that's just one man's opinion. Nick said, does a move for Fofana hinder, or excuse me, do you mean hedge or edge, on one of our wingers leaving? How heavy a discount will Lyon players be now? So I would say no discount, because I think Lyon will appeal, and that will keep them in for one more year as it gets heard out. So I don't think there's going to be a fire sale at Lyon this summer. Is it depending on us moving somebody on? I would imagine so, yeah. Yeah, and I think that person probably will be Chiesa, based off the fact that he looks like he's going to be going back to Italy. And Gasperini, who's become the new Roma head coach, is apparently interested in bringing Chiesa to Roma. That was something that was in the news today. So, yeah, and that's another one, by the way, that I think most of us here would feel like that's disappointing, because we all liked Fede and we would have liked to have seen him get more chances. But again, coming back to the manager, he doesn't. So, whatever we feel, we're just going to have to suck it up. It's a weird one, because we should be happy with how this window's going and the direction we're headed in. And hopefully now, we'll get top dollar for the likes of Elliott and Tyler Morton. If they go and win the Euros as well, it only kind of helps the process. Craig, do you think Guehi will be offered a 3-figure sum of money? 100% yes. I would imagine you'll see him come in at about 120 to 150, something like that, if he signs for Liverpool, which is where KONATE could easily be as well, by the way. I don't think anybody's denying that Ibrahima KONATE is underpaid, but it's how much of an increase and how is it paid? Is it all guaranteed? Probably not. Is it going to be with triggerable bonuses? Yes, that's the way a lot of the contracts are. So, yeah, I would say, he'd probably come in on big money and probably deserves it. as well. You know, KONATE deserves to be on about 140, 150 a week. I don't think any of us would argue that. I just, personally, just looking at the way Edwards operates, I just get the feeling he doesn't rate KONATE. I don't know what else to say, but if they really believed in him, they'd pay him the money, because they've shown that they are willing to pay it to players who they believe keep performing at the very top level. But let's not forget that there were moments last year where he looked very shaky, and moments where we got away with some stuff. And if you're looking to move on to, you know, dominate and build a partnership that's solid, you can't have those whoopsie moments. S4T, thank you, bro, for gifting 5 memberships. That's very kind of you. Sarah Marshall, forgetting Sarah Marshall. Wirtz is a generational talent. Do you think he was not planned? Isak could have been a big signing this year, as we were told we always needed a striker. I think even Liverpool, Sarah, were probably surprised that they were able to get Wirtz, because I think the common consensus was that he was going to go to Bayern. So I think once Liverpool sat down and spoke with him, then the confidence really grew, because they sold him the plan. Richard Hughes and Arne Slot apparently played a blinder in those conversations and really spelled out exactly how he'd be utilised, how he'd progress and continue to develop, and that won him around. And then Liverpool, when they had that belief, then they started to think, right, let's move this plan forward, let's get the deal done with Leverkusen. And I'm just genuinely grateful that we did it. I'm so happy for it. It was a signing that I never ever thought we'd be able to get done. So for us to go and do it is brilliant, and everyone deserves their fair dues and the credit for it. When will new keeper be announced? Mamardashvili. I'm imagining it'll be after his holiday. It is a little bit weird, right? I agree that we haven't seen the media stuff with Georgie yet. But Liverpool also have to be mindful of the fact that they haven't got the Adidas deal till August the 1st. And that's why I think we're not seeing the squad numbers being announced and stuff yet. And the actual reason for that, when I looked a bit deeper, was because the COVID season, do you remember when the end of the season was moved on into July? Well, that caused the contracts with the kit manufacturers to move on a little bit later as well. Because, you know, Wirtz is also an Adidas athlete, and they would have loved to have announced them with the whole, you know, big Adidas push and stuff as well. So with Georgie, I just think it'll be his holiday. When he comes back from his holiday, we'll see it all done. Because he did have the international games as well at the end of the season. So now he'll be on his jolly bobs. Red, is Guehi going to replace KONATE, then Osimhen? So Guehi has been brought in to replace Kwanzaa. If KONATE leaves, then we'll bring in another centre-back. But whatever happens, it looks like, yes, Guehi is being brought in to play more than KONATE. I think that's a fairer way to put it. If we hadn't sold Jarell Kwanzaa, we wouldn't be buying Marc Guehi. So, in one way, yes, he's coming in and he'll probably be taking KONATE's starting place, at least based off reports from journalists who've said that's the conversations that have been had. That he was told, you're coming in to partner Van Dijk and to be the leader of Liverpool's defence after that when Van Dijk moves on. So, yeah, look, I think this is very clever because Liverpool are covering their bases. You know, whatever happens with KONATE, we're covered for having a top quality centre back alongside Virgil. Well, we still need to replace KONATE if he leaves, but I think it's good, clever business. Any news on Zaire Emery? Nothing new. I've seen the same reports that you've seen. I wonder will we bring in a DM at all or somebody in that area of the pitch, because if the manager really does think McConnell is as good as he seemingly does, and you've got Endo there as well, and we've still got Stefan Bajcetic at the moment, where are you going to get him in? You know, so I wonder will we see one more year where McConnell gets another look, Endo stays around, and then maybe next year, if needed, we reevaluate the cover for Gravenberch. But again, I am kind of guessing here. Billy Beckner said, Craig, would you be happy if we replaced KONATE and Kwanzaa for Guehi and Collins? Happy? Yeah, I would. And do you know what? Let's put it to a poll. So we've had 2,600 votes on this. We said, will KONATE leave this summer? And 70% of people say, yes, they think he will leave this summer. Right, let's start this one. Okay. Sorry, folks. Bear with me 1 second. Let's go that one. Or right. So which is the better two to have at Liverpool? KONATE and Kwanzaa or Guehi and Collins? And we'll see what we think on this one. I'm saying, for me, if we brought in Marc Guehi and Nathan Collins, that's an upgrade, quite a big upgrade for me on KONATE and Kwanzaa as a package, as a couple of options. I think that's an upgrade. S4T said, when Salah goes to AFCON, what are your thoughts about playing Frimpong on the right wing? It's certainly a very feasible option. You could even move Szoboszlai out there, but rely on the pace of Frimpong, if you get me. So yeah, I think it's certainly an option for us. But also, we don't talk about this enough from my view. Why not just stick Diaz out there for those few weeks and put Gakpo on the left? You know? I think Diaz can do just as good a job on the right side. I know we're all kind of obsessed with inverted forwards, but, you know, for me, just stick Diaz over there for a few weeks. And as you mentioned, Frimpong's a good shout as well. Brian, oh, you're such a legend, mate. Brian just put in 50 memberships. Absolute legend. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, mate. I'm glad you're home safely as well, by the way. I was going to message you earlier on, but I didn't want to annoy you because I'm thinking your first day back home and all, you know. I didn't want to be annoying you. I like how we don't always have to agree. You know I love you, Carl. I love you to bits, mate. You know I do. You're one of the longest serving friends I've made on here. But I get the Elliott thing, bro. But, you know, I love him as well. But it's just a manager, you know. But again, we don't always have to agree, as you said. And it's never personal, Carl. Never personal, my man. You know there's nothing but love for me to you. Connor Casey. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. The Alisson documentary feels like they're preparing for him to leave next year. Yeah, I think he sees out the 2 years he has left. Well, sorry, technically he has 1 year left and Liverpool have an option. And I think they trigger that option, in my opinion. And then Alisson probably goes back to Brazil. But either way, all I can say is it's been a pleasure and a privilege and an honour to watch him play for Liverpool Football Club. He's like Superman to me. I absolutely worship Alisson Becker. He is absolutely incredible. And I still can't believe quite how good he is. You know, we signed him from Roma. I had a few question marks because I'd only really seen him when we played against Roma. But very quickly I realised I'm an idiot. He's amazing. And Liverpool could have doubled the money they paid for him and I'd still be calling it a bargain. I love him to bits. Brian, not at all. What a treat spending time with you, Connor, Katie, and your amazing family. Thank you, Brian. It was so lovely. So we got to spend time with Brian in Mullingar, and then we went to Wexford Town with them and a few other places. And it was a pleasure to spend time with Brian, his brother, and his brother's partner, Laurie. And I'm glad you all got home safe and well, Brian. And of course, we'll see you in October again for the United game. And I can't wait. I still can't believe you sorted them tickets, by the way, Brian. Bucket list game for me has always been to go to watch Liverpool Man United. So yeah, I can't wait. I'm so excited. Kwanzaa in the poll for what? For talking about the package of quarterbacks, of centre backs. You know, which is the better combo of options to have. I've only just locked in as Alisson leaving. No, mate, no. People were just saying that they think the documentary is kind of setting the groundwork for the future to maybe say goodbye to him, but it won't be for now, you know. we can't move him on at the minute because we got to see how Georgie is, right? We got to see how he settles into England and Premier League life. Daniel said, looking back now at the past windows of not spending, would you have taken that knowing how well we're going to do this summer? I think it's played out well for us in the end. Do you know what, Daniel? You're the first person to phrase the question in that kind of way. And thank you, firstly. Yes, I would. I would, mate. If I had have known over the past 2 years that this window was going to come, I would have been far less aggressive and confrontational and outspoken about the owners. Because I truly, mate, I didn't think they were ever going to do it. I didn't think they had the willingness to go that strong. And I was wrong on that. Now, that being said, I wouldn't change a damn thing about what I've said now, because everything I said at the time was my genuine, honest feelings. But like I've always promised, if they show that they have that appetite, I will always put my hands up and give credit where it's due. And this window, as a Liverpool fan, I'm over the moon with how we're starting. And I'm really just excited to get going with the new season. But yeah, hand on heart, I just didn't think he were going to do it, Daniel. I felt like they were never fully emotionally in on the club being successful. But I also want to add into that, I fully do think that they think now is the right time to strike because Manchester City are weakened. And I think they sense an opportunity now that with the right investment, the right backing, we can have that era of major success. Jurgen gave us success, but it was intermittent, if you want to say that. This, I think we want to dominate, and it's a big sign of intent from the owners and the club, and for that, nothing but praise, nothing but thanks. And look, I think if you don't revisit your stance on the owners, depending on what your problem with them was, and I've always told you my problem with them was the spending and the Super League, but you can't change the Super League, that's been and gone. So if you don't admit that you're happy now, I just think you're never going to change your mind. And I think you're being disingenuous. If I told you I was still unhappy with FSG about spending, that would just make me look like an even bigger clown than I maybe do some of the time. So, yeah, I think I've always tried to be honest and say my opinions, like anybody else's, are fluid. They change depending on the situation and the context of the debate. And right now, wow, what a start to the window. Who would you rather, Alvarez or Isak? I would rather Julian Alvarez, personally. I think he's tailor-made for the way that we play. I think he's a little bit more versatile across the front line if needs be and doesn't have the same injury concerns. But I would be cock-a-hoop if we signed either of them because they're both very, very good. Shane, the interviews with signings on the club YouTube require membership. Yeah, I kind of feel that as well, Jack. And even when you go onto the website, like I have LFC TV as part of my Sky subscription, but I still can't watch the stuff when they do their first interview or whatever on the club site. That kind of winds me up a bit as well, mate. Should we also use a buyback on Elliott? It depends. Because I still believe that the buyback for Kwanzaa was part of the way they were able to afford him, if you get me. I think Liverpool probably had a higher initial valuation of Jarell Kwanzaa, but because of the way the deal worked out, they're willing to take a little bit less. With Harvey Elliott, I wonder if there is going to be a time, especially under this manager, that they would want to buy him back. So, and it also depends on the buying club as well. Like if he goes to Brighton, as an example, I don't for 1 second believe that Tony Bloom or Brighton are going to accept a buyback clause put into that deal and then pay 40 million quid or whatever. So I wouldn't expect it, but never say never. We deserve Elliott as depth. Do we? For what? To sit on the bench? Because the manager's made his mind up on him. So whatever we think is irrelevant. And we have depth. We've just brought in Florian Wirtz. So for two attacking midfield positions, we have Wirtz, we have McAllister, we have Szoboszlai, we have Jones for 2 positions. So if you put in Elliott into that mix, you're never going to keep them all happy. They're never going to get enough game time. And that's the thing for Harvey Elliott. Like you said, he doesn't want to sit there and watch his career just go past. Even at a club like Liverpool, you want to be out there playing. So yeah, look, I feel really bad that Elliott's going to leave Liverpool because I love him. He's one of my favourite personalities in and around the club. I think he's just a lovely example of a Liverpool player who gets what it's like to be a Liverpool player and carries himself accordingly. But he also deserves to go and play. And you know what? I've no doubt we'll have these conversations where we go, wow, Elliott's tearing it up at Villa or Newcastle or Brighton or wherever, because he's a good guy. He's a good player. It's just unfortunate that for the way the manager wants to play, he seems to maybe edge towards Curtis Jones over Harvey. Did you see any academy players breaking through, or do you see? Yeah, of course. Look at the talent that we have there. We've got young Rio. We've got McConnell, who is seemingly going to get more opportunities next season. We've got Trey Neone, and I don't know what the club's plan is for him. Obviously, we've still got Dans, Kumas, all those guys to look at. We signed that young goalkeeper, Pechi, as well, so I want to keep an eye on him this season. And then there was that kid, was it Lucky? Is that his name? The young centre-back? Now, again, I'm not the person to give you the information on the underage players. I don't have the time to really look into it, but I certainly think we do have some talent, yes. But when they come through, not really sure. Just send Elliott on loan if he agrees, much better option. I think you're missing the reason why he's not played, mate. Sending him on loan if the manager doesn't think he has what it takes to play in his squad and the way he wants to play isn't going to change in a year. So if Arne Slot just thinks that his attributes aren't good enough for the way he wants to play, and he sees him week in, week out, day in, day out in the training ground, I don't think a loan's going to change that, unfortunately. And Liverpool couldn't go out there and bring in another player, let's say. We mightn't have the money to bring in a striker or a wide forward or a centre-back if we don't bring in money. We've always been told that this summer we're going to have to recoup some money as well. So, Elliott will be a big chunk of that. You're talking about £40 million there for him. And we're going to have to put that money to use. To this day, I still believe re-signing Mo and Virgil has played a big part in the transfer window. Do you know what? I said this yesterday. I'm still a little bit concerned. I'm hoping Mo starts the season like a steam train. But the way we ended that last season, it gave me a little pause for concern. But it's certainly been a big statement. And what it has done as well is it's given us the ability to succession plan properly. So let's say Marc Guehi comes in as an example. In 2 years' time, then if Virgil leaves, Marc Guehi be 26, he could be the leader of the defence. He could be the next captain. So we've succession planned that one, or we're looking to succession plan that one correctly. Alisson Becker, again, Georgi Marmirashvili, we're giving it time. We're giving him time at the club. That's the best way to go about these things, rather than losing a player and immediately looking to replace them. Give them that year or two. SDO said, Craig, I don't get why Liverpool ain't in for Šeško. Well, we might be. That's the thing. We're not in for anybody at the minute. We're kind of observing the striker situation. We haven't put our cards on the table yet. So, for all we know, maybe there are conversations in back channels between Liverpool and Bayer Leverkusen, RB Leipzig. Maybe there aren't. I don't know, but I agree with you. I think he's certainly the right age profile. He's got potential. He's come through a very good system, both at Salzburg and Leipzig. So I would have no disagreement with you on Šeško being somebody I think should be in the conversation. So again, I feel like, and I'm sorry if I'm annoying people, but I'm still seeing it in the chat, so I'm going to just reiterate it again. Nobody needs to be in any way concerned about Milos Kerkez. Don't give it a second's thought. It's signed. It's signed. It's signed. Again, it's signed. Contract signed. deal signed with the selling club, everything done. It's just a few little technical hiccups, which is probably to do with visas or something like that, but absolutely nothing to be concerned about. It will be announced soon, but whether soon is tonight, tomorrow, the next day, that could depend on when the British government get their finger out for the paperwork, So some of the football clubs are kind of at the behest of the government sometimes for these things. They have to wait and see what happens. So I wouldn't be concerned about it. You've nothing to worry about. He is a Liverpool player. It just has to be rubber stamped with the visa and all that stuff. But promise you've nothing to be concerned about. Why not Gyökeres? Because Liverpool view that he hasn't done it in a high enough caliber league yet. That's the honest answer. The fact that he's 27. Liverpool look at him and just think, we've already rolled the dice with Darwin from that league, didn't work out. And Liverpool just don't think the Portuguese league under Edwards and Hughes is a good enough league to judge that a player has performed to the level required. Now, again, I'm not saying you have to agree with me on that or not, but that's why. Right, so we asked, and it's still open the vote if you haven't, which is the best two to have at Liverpool, KONATE and Kwanzaa, or Guehi and Collins? Again, thank you to those who've been voting, and if you haven't, please do. Off topic, but thoughts on Frank Sinatra. Do you know what? Never really listened to much Frank Sinatra music. Obviously I've heard My Way and New York and all that, but I don't know much about his music, to be honest with you. It's my dad wasn't really a Frank Sinatra person. He was more of an Elvis person. So yeah, I never really listened to much. Why we only sell Torres for 50 million? Only? Do you not remember at the time that was a huge sum of money, Tom? And we're going back quite a few years there, mate. But £50 million at the time, you remember he was horrendous at Chelsea once he left us. So felt like we cashed in at the right time, in all honesty. Thanks for the answer. No, my pleasure, mate. I don't mean to be dismissive when I say these things, but I've often sat there and thought, surely Gyökeres would be worth a look. But Liverpool have this thing where they want players to have had a career before their Liverpool career and tested at a high enough level. And they just don't feel Gyökeres it is. But for what it's worth, I think he'd score some goals. I do. But, that's the reasoning behind it. What are my thoughts on Lallana? Oh, thank you, Stephen, for bringing up Adam Lallana. Yes, so Adam Lallana announced his retirement today, 37 years of age. And I have to say, I enjoyed Lallana at Liverpool. Him and Bobby Firmino were really important to the Gegenpress initially under Jurgen. Always seemed a very nice man. Did some great charitable work as well. So, yeah, just wish Adam Lallana the very best with whatever is next in his life and in his professional career. It's just a model pro, and sometimes injuries were unfortunate, but I'll always look back on Adam Lallana's time with the club fondly, and yeah, as I said, wish him nothing but the best. Are we definitely going for Fofana? I wouldn't say definitely, no. He's just a list on the list of players that Liverpool have looked at. I couldn't say definitely yes, and I couldn't say definitely no, but he is somebody who Liverpool, Chelsea, and a few other clubs are keeping tabs on. Right, what else have we got? So, what do we think happens with KONATE? Now, I know you might say get sold, but what do you think actually happens? How does this play out with Ibrahima KONATE? Because this report here said that Real Madrid are planning to offer £25 million for KONATE, and that Liverpool would want at least £40 million to get a deal done. So what do you think happens? Do you think that this gets dragged out? Do you think that he tries to run his contract down? Do you think Liverpool will find a breakthrough with KONATE? Or do you think that he moves on for a fee this summer? It won't be £25 million, I can tell you that. If there's going to be a fee, it'll be higher than that. And if he runs down his deal, you best enjoy sitting on the bench because, that's what will happen for the majority of the season. And if he wants to go to the World Cup with France, then, you're not going to be playing too much, fella. So, Carbon said, "Hi Craig, how are you? I think we still need a right winger, and I do think Conceição fits the profile for backup for Mo because he has the skill and speed." I agree. We could do with some cover for Mo, but I also wonder, is young Rio going to be that in the future? Is all we also have to think about not blocking the pathway through for some of these kids, and maybe young Rio comes in off the left in the future. Maybe he's a bit more central. I don't know, but you are right. We're still sitting here, and we don't have what we would think of as a natural successor. The nearest, I guess, might be Frimpong, as somebody mentioned earlier on. And I'm sure that conversations will come up with Arna about what does happen when Mo goes to the AFCON, and maybe it is Frimpong who starts the cover on the right side. Space Cowboy said, "Guehi and Murillo, and we're done for the next 6 years." Well, Liverpool are certainly very fond of Murillo, but it seems, according to the reports, that it would be the price tag there that would put Liverpool off. Forest, looking for 70, 80 million quid. And I think he signed a new contract, if I'm not mistaken, which, probably strengthens their hand even more there. But they are fond of him. So, swap Morton for Collins as Norgard left. They need a DM. Oh, mate, I'd be over the moon for something like that. Or even an apart exchange, like you've said. Now, we were talking a little bit earlier on about Tyler Morton, and this report suggests that West Ham are looking at Tyler Morton and thinking about a potential offer for him. So, and I think he's good enough to play in the Premier League. And I actually, you know what, now that you've said Brentford, great show, because they're going to have a new coach. Obviously, it looks like it's going to be Keith Andrews. They've got Queven Kelleher there as well. They've lost Norgard to Arsenal, as you've mentioned. So, yeah, could be a good show. 21's final is Germany and England. Nice chance for England to get some revenge there for the group stage game. Yeah, that's fair play. It's well done to England for getting to the finals as well, and every chance of winning it on Saturday. Veer Patel said, "Hey Craig, I hope you're well." I'm very good, thank you, mate. Yeah, really good. It's my wife's birthday today, so again, want to just wish her a happy birthday, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do without Sabrina. I just wouldn't. So yeah, happy birthday. Right, a couple of quick things, and don't worry, we've loads of time left to go, but want to just remind you again about these two things. So firstly, our last ever show is in Liverpool on the 19th of October at the Hot Water Comedy Club. If you haven't got your tickets yet, they are selling quickly, and thank you to those who've got them. So if you want to come, it's just £15 for this show. It's an all-ages event. It's the weekend of the Manchester United game. You can get your ticket with that QR code on the screen. And also, if you want the very latest updates before we do the streams or anything, scan that and join the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp community. And again, thank you to everyone that's already joined. Right. What time does Craig finish? Usually at about 10:30. Yeah, I usually like to go to about 10:30, my man. Sometimes it can be tough to come up with an hour and 45 minutes of talking, particularly on a day like today where it would be one of the slower news days, but I just like to come on and have a chat with you anyway. So even if we were talking about the weather, I'd love to chat with you all one way or the other. Guehi being two-footed is a bonus. Yeah, he can play either side, mate, as you mentioned, across the defence, which is definitely a bonus. David said, "Wish I could come, be great to meet you." Well, we've only got 2 left. So this will be our 4th in Liverpool. We've done Dublin, we've done Belfast, we've done Cardiff. We're doing Cork, this show here. We're in Cork, Cypress Avenue, Cork, for an over-18s event on the 8th of August. And that's the last ever Irish show. And then the other one is our last ever show. And yeah, I'll be relieved when they're both done. I enjoy the aftermath of them, meeting everybody, shaking hands, taking photos, love all that stuff, but I'm a bag of nerves going on stage. Mason said, "What are your thoughts on Isak?" I'm having one of those days today, Mason, where I feel like it's possible again. And my My mind goes back and forth on whether I do believe it's possible or not. But this report from the Mirror caught my eye as well. That said, the problem that Newcastle have with giving Isak an enormous new contract is that it threatens the stability of the dressing room. If they give Isak a club record contract, then the likes of Bruno Guimaraes and Sandro Tonali are going to come knocking on the manager's door saying, where's my big money deal? So I'm intrigued. You know, I'm still not fully on board thinking it is going to happen, but again, I'm being dragged back into this because every day it feels like a little bit more comes out and a little bit more. And there's been some talk that he wants to move, but I think it'll come down to what happens when he comes back from his holidays and what him and his agent do when they sit down to Newcastle. That could be where this starts to go in one direction or the other. Animal, welcome to Anfield Agenda Ultras, bro. Appreciate you. Why has Kerkez still not been announced? Can I get this tattooed on my forehead? So it's a technical thing, mate. Probably to do with his visa or something like that, but it's nothing to do with a medical issue. That was passed. The contract's been signed. The paperwork between Liverpool and Bournemouth's been taken care of. It's probably just to do with a visa or a work permit issue, something simple like that. You know yourself, when you get the government involved, these things can drag on a little bit. So nothing to be concerned about. Think of him as a Liverpool player and it'll be announced soon. Hear me out, Craig. Would you be happy with Mateta considering his goal catalogue? So my honest answer, Paro, is, and I've said this a few times this summer, I don't know what Arne Slot wants from a striker. I don't know what Arne Slot's ideal striker would be because we haven't had a chance to really see him play with a striker that he has belief in yet. So I don't know, mate. I don't know if he wants somebody physical like Mateta who also has pace and power. I don't know if he wants somebody who's a bit more creative and a bit more guile in and around the penalty area. I don't know. I can only be honest and say I haven't got a clue who the target is. Guesswork would say Isak, Osimhen, Ekitike are probably the three most likely, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we didn't sign somebody and maybe Jayden Dan's got some time and Liverpool gave it a season with maybe a false nine and kept Jota around as a backup option. Ash, how are we, Ash? Ash said, Craig, are you concerned that we seem to be lacking real blistering pace in our front three? Yes. I'm a sucker for a pacey wide forward, and I would love Liverpool to bring in somebody with a bit of blistering pace across the front line. So, yeah, I am a little bit concerned that we are lacking in that. Certainly would be an area where I'd like to see us put a bit more in. Liverpool's priority was a number 9. The fact that we're still waiting for that number 9 when so many are there for the taking makes me certain that they think Isak is the one. Well, that and the fact that we have to sell Darwin as well. Last thing we could commit to doing was bringing in a big money striker and then have Darwin fall through or that deal not happening. So Liverpool were always kind of going to wait to see what happens with Darwin. And it looks as if that move to Napoli certainly is a real possibility. It doesn't look like they're a million miles apart in the valuations, and he's had meetings with Napoli and liked what they've had to say. So, yeah, I think there might be a possibility there for that one to happen. Animal, how are we, dude? Feels weird calling you an animal, by the way, mate, but welcome in again. You've said, been here for years, but never get a chance to chat as I'm always at work, but want to say, keep up the good work. You're amazing for the Liverpool community. Mate, it's always so humbling to hear something so beautiful like that. And all I can say is, it is a privilege to be here and be, I guess, the face of our community, because you guys are what makes this group special. I have an easy job. I get to come on here and, interact. But it's the warmth, the kindness, and the supportiveness of you guys to me and each other that makes this a special place. So thank you. I really do appreciate your kind words. But like I've always said, love right back to everybody else, because you guys are what make this channel, in my opinion, the best group on the internet. Right. I need your help, though. We have been on an amazing streak of 1,000 likes on every live stream. So if you can, do take a second, hit that like button for me. Is there any other clubs in for Doak other than Everton? Yep. 1 second, Stephen. Let me just click back through my notes here. Give me 1 moment. Yeah, here we go. So Crystal Palace, Everton, and Bournemouth are the clubs that are most named or most mentioned as having been keeping a tab on Ben Doak's situation. Now, I don't know which one may come forward with a bid, but Doak will probably go, like we've said. Like, let's start totting up some money here, just as an example. Let's say we get 25 million for Doak. Let's say we get 40 million for Elliott. Tyler Morton, 15 to 20 million probably. So what's that? That's 80 million. We've got, what was it, 16, 18 million already. For Kelleher, that's 96. If KONATE goes, that's probably another 35, 40 million. Kwanzaa will be going, that'll be another 30, 35 million. So, you're already into Liverpool maybe recouping about 150 million pound, which will then give us the money to spend big on, a striker. I nearly said Isak there. Because I'm starting to get dragged in again. Liverpool in contact with Gyökeres and he wants Liverpool. Yeah, all I can say to you about that, Mark, is it is the biggest load of horsey poo-poo that I can say to you. It comes from Ojogo, who are a Portuguese, it comes from CM Jornal, who are a Portuguese outlet. And I believe it's just trying to ramp up interest in a player who hasn't yet seen an offer come in to get him his move. And of course, he's having a little bit of a back and forth with the higher ups at Sporting Lisbon over this gentleman's agreement over him being able to be sold for a little bit less. But one thing I can say to you is Liverpool will not sign Viktor Gyökeres. No interest. It isn't going to happen. Don't be dragged into it. I'm sure he would want Liverpool. Why the fuck wouldn't he want Liverpool? Every player in Europe should be chomping at the bit to come to Liverpool, but he's not going to be the guy. Craig, with all these incomings and outgoings, be worried about consistency. Do you not feel like we're kind of moaning for the sake of moaning now? We said we want signings. We're getting signings. We've said we're going to have to move on some fringe players to pay for other ones. And now there's too much change. So the only situation that I think maybe falls into that category is KONATE's situation. Because, yes, change at the heart of centre-back could be a big thing. But if you're bringing in the likes of a Marc Guehi, an experienced centre-back, I think that negates it a bit. But if you look at the team, there's not really wholesale changes. Yes, we need a new left-back, and Kerkez is that guy. At right-back, we've got 2 good options. In midfield, we're kind of as we were, but we've added in Virt, so that's just another option. And up top, we still need to sort out the centre-forward. So I don't think it's too much change, I think it's fresh blood. Yeah, I don't think it's too much. Personally, I don't think it's too much yet, but certainly the centre-back situation is one that I'd be the most concerned about. Jimenez from Milan used to be class for slot of Feyenoord. Surprised he's not linked with us. Again, he's not good enough. Like, we're shopping for somebody that we want to become an absolute animal. Like, somebody who is one of the best in his position in the world. And Santiago Jimenez ain't that guy. How many players changing is too much? Could be 4 of the front 6 being sold. So, Gakpo and Diaz I don't think go. Salah not going. Jota probably doesn't go. So, you're probably looking at Darwin and Chiesa moving on from the front. Chiesa didn't play minutes last season, so him being lost out of the squad's not going to change anything for us. So it'll be a change up top with Darwin. So again, where's the too much change? I don't see it. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be as much change as you think there. Chiesa, we're not really losing that in there from regards of we didn't see him play. So it's not like he played 25 games last season that we have to find another player to play those 25 games. All he did last season was sit on the bench smiling, getting paid 150 grand a week. That was it. Gyökeres is 12-1 for Liverpool. I won't be having a punt on that one. Well, if you stuck a tenner on that, you'd lose a tenner. How much can they still spend in total in this window? Well, that's kind of a double-edged question. How much can we spend? I guess depends on how deep the owners want to dip into their pocket. How much we can spend is over 200 million more and not have any PSR problems. And this was actually mentioned by the Echo's football finance correspondent, Dave Powell, who certainly knows his onions. And Dave said Liverpool could spend another 200 million in the market this summer and still be PSR compliant. So, yeah, the ability's there for us to do it. But again, it's about making sure that, you know, the ones that they want are available. So let me ask a question, right? I'm going to finish this and then I'm going to give you striker options and I want to see who you would go for. So bear with me. Before I do, can somebody tell me is the release clause for Victor Osimhen 70 million euro? Is that right? 70 million euro. Right, so Guehi and Collins, 74% of the people that voted said that they think Guehi and Collins will be a better combination of options to have than KONATE and Kwanzaa. And thank you so much to everyone that voted. Does anyone know why the Isak Newcastle post was deleted? Yeah, because it looked bad. They were talking about selling a preseason game and they said on sale now beside a picture of Isak and they knew that that wasn't going to go down well. So that's why it was deleted. Why bother? The answer will be Isak. Well, it might not be, but let's wait and see. So, right, bear with me. Okay. Okay. One more. Right, one more option. Let's go with this one. Right, so pick who you want, and I've put a price beside them all as well to give you some context. So, Isak for 150 million, Osimhen for 60 to 65 million pound, Ekitike for 85 million pound, or Šeško for 80 million pound. Because they're roughly the numbers that have been mentioned in and around those players, whether it's release clauses or, you know, just interest. S40, how are we, bro? Said, hear me out. If Diaz does leave, and with you, talking about needing pace across the front three, would you consider taking Doku from City? Because I heard this season ended that City were thinking about selling him. No. He is incredibly fast, incredibly skillful, but incredibly wasteful. And I would say if we need young players in wide positions, maybe look at the kid from PSV Eindhoven. Anthony Gordon's name, obviously, as well. Malik Fofana is another name there. But no, I wouldn't go near Jeremy Doku personally, mate. He's just so frustrating. You know, the amount of chances he creates and gets into for City that just end up being wasted. What's this one? So, this one, Milos Kerkez is on a night out with his brother right now. He's not worried, so we don't need to be either. Announcement will come. Exactly. It's a technical issue, so it's nothing to do with the fee or the medical or any of that stuff. It's just some boring bit of paperwork. Itachi said, let's go for Isak to complete this as a whole. I'm fine with not spending money in the next 3 years. 3 years? Oh, I don't know about that, dude. 3 windows I'll give you, but 3 years. I don't know. No, I want a signing every summer, at least one to refresh and increase competition. Don't know about 3 years. 3 years without a signing. It's easy saying that now, but let's sit here in a year and a half and be still having this conversation. I promise you we're not feeling as happy as we would do right now. Sarah, thank you for gifting a membership, Sarah Marshall. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Would I take Garnacho off United? No. I do like the shithousery, though, from Garnacho. I'll give him that one. I have liked him walking around the Rashford jersey and stuff. That I found funny. 3 years we will be left behind. Oh, no. You know, yeah, there's no way I think you would pacify a set of Liverpool fans for 3 years without a signing. Most frustrating front three to watch, Darwin and number 9 to start. The thing about Darwin is, what makes him so good, or so... Sorry, the dog barking's freaking me out. Can somebody let the dog out? Yeah, what gets me about Darwin is it's not like he's shit. You know, it's not like we're sitting here going, do you hear me, dog? And that's just him wanting to get out. Yeah, it's that we know he has all the tools. Like, we know the dude has everything in his locker to be a success. He has the pace. He has the shooting ability when he's, you know, in front of goal. He's got it all, but he doesn't have the calmness. And he also doesn't seem to know how to stay onside. That's one part that does really annoy me about Darwin. But, you know, when you see those moments where he does put it all together, incredible. Just, you know, you're left in awe. But it just is too infrequent. Even the dog has Nunes PTSD. Well, for what it's worth, the dog's name is Harvey, and he's named after Harvey Elliott. That's how much I love Harvey Elliott, by the way. My dog's named after him. Sounded more like an Arsenal fan barking. Yeah, I agree. Sounded like them. What do you mean Liverpool spending 200 million? You know, Arteta, no, second place. That's what it sounded like. I think if we were to, you know, put some speech underneath it, that's kind of where we'd be going with it, isn't it? PGMOL, yeah. George, now, that out of context is going to look funny on a short or something. We deserve a proper striker like Isak. We invested in Virgil and Alisson, and the results will follow. Look, if he's available, dude, the money will be put down on the table and he'll be gone after. You know, if there's... think of it like Wirtz. Think of it like that. If there's any indication that it's possible to get Isak, we'll go. You know, so think of it like Wirtz. If the indication's there, if the player gives the club the old nod and Newcastle are receptive to an offer, they'll move for him. You know, it's just Liverpool just don't want to go after a player who may not be available from the club. But if he shows a willingness, absolutely, like Wirtz, will be there. Nah. Your dog impression set my dog off now. Whoopsies. Sorry. Craig, is it just me that thinks Anthony Gordon is massively overrated? No. I think most people in the chat will probably agree with you that he's overrated, because every time I bring him up, people get annoyed about him. What I would say is, I think we can improve him. That's what I would say. I think, you know, if you have to keep an eye on the homegrown situation, I think he could be an astute piece of business. But I do understand everybody who will be like, no. Especially at the price. If you're talking 65, 70 million, you know, I'll understand it even more, because he's not a £70 million player at the minute. Right, so even with the higher price tag, so far, it's still Isak out in the lead. So remember, pick who you want. Isak for 150 million, Osimhen for 60 to 65 million, Ekitike for 85 million, and Šeško for about 80 million. My dog's name is Nunes. So does your dog like run into the back door before it's open, or, you know, does he run into the wrong water bowl? Or... And also, my dog's a diva. Let me tell you that as well. He'll bark to get outside, right? You heard him barking. He'll give it all the bitty and all that. And you open the back door if it's raining, he won't move. He'll stand there and he'll back up and he'll be like, nah, I'm all right. Never mind the cat out there. It's raining. Not budging. Even if we're walking him and he gets to a puddle, he stops until you lift him over the puddle. He is a little diva. Thank you for the WhatsApp channel. Your work and keeping us up to date is amazing. It's my absolute pleasure. And the problem I have with the WhatsApp channel is I'd post more in there. I just don't want to annoy people with notifications. So for me, mate, I'd be posting in 20 messages a day, voice notes, bits and pieces. But I don't want to be overdoing it and annoying people in the WhatsApp community either. Any interest in Chris Rigg? Yes, there is. From not just Liverpool, but a lot of Premier League clubs. So I'm going to tell you that I haven't seen all that much of Chris Rigg, but people, I think, Andy, if you're still in the chat, mate, I think if I'm remembering correctly, one of your mates was a season ticket holder at Sunderland and said that they don't think he'd be ready for a move to the likes of Liverpool just yet. But certainly he's a talent that many top clubs are looking at. There's not enough of you, Craig, said Stefan. Honestly, I'd love to be sending in voice notes and stuff as well to everyone, but I just don't want to bombard people with notifications because I know you probably get enough of them in your life already. Think comic book guy from is a Man U fan. Worst season ever. That and Donald Trump. Worst season ever. Hey, Craig, I spent the money, Craig. Where are you now? Where's the money, John, now, dickhead? Huh, Craig? Huh, John? Huh, fuck you. Spent the money, dickhead. That's getting demonetized now for that little rant. There you go. Newcastle won't be winning Premier League in the next 3 years. If Isak wants it, he knows Liverpool is there. And Andy said, yes, Craig, he hardly starts for Sunderland. Need a couple of seasons. The ability potential is there for Rigg. Where are we going? Sorry, I was going back to something else before that one. Newcastle, yeah. Jay, I agree. Jay Singh, I agree with you, mate. And I think Isak will look at that as well and think, right, I'm in my prime now. And yes, Newcastle have qualified for the Champions League. And yes, they've won the Carabao Cup. But are they realistically going to compete to win the Champions League or the Premier League in the next few years? The answer, respectfully, is probably no. So, again, that's why I keep saying it will come down to what the conversations are like between him and Newcastle when he reports back for pre-season after his holidays. And that's the great unknown for everybody at the minute. Crispy Sesh said, Voltmada 22. Well, he'd been linked with us a little bit in the press. 42 million, if my memory's right, was Stuttgart's asking price there. So, certainly in the realms of affordable. But what I don't know is what Liverpool's view is on Nick Voltmada. I don't know if you think he's good enough or not. Craig, is Guehi not too short for us? Or remember us not signing him, his height has it changed? So, you're correct. There was certainly some conversation. I remember speaking with David Lynch about this, and we kind of both had a similar thought process. And certainly he was hearing that there was a concern on that side of things. You look at his numbers and there isn't really much to complain about outside of those aerial duels. But, that doesn't mean that if we have, let's say, a checklist of 15 things that maybe he doesn't tick 13 of them, or maybe Liverpool just feel that maybe at 70, 75 million pound had some doubts, but with the price maybe becoming a bit more favourable because he's coming into the last year. He, again, has had a bit more national experience with England. Won a trophy as well and showed some leadership again with Palace. Maybe they've reevaluated it right now. And certainly at about 40 million quid, I think it would be a very astute signing. Jonathan said no, it's 75 million euro. I'm sure I seen 42 million somewhere. Maybe it was an article that said that they'd be open to a fee of that. Maybe that was it. Yo, Slayer said, I like that we're spending, but if I was Klopp, I would be annoyed, to be honest. Up to 300 million in one window and Klopp got no signings. But what we don't know is, did Jurgen maybe not want to push through and spend that much. Again, we don't know. It's all kind of conjecture. But also, I think this is, again, something that I can't prove as a fact. It's just an opinion. I just get the feeling that FSG sense weakness in Man City now and sense an opportunity, because it all stems for me from a piece I read from one of the Red Sox fanzines, and they were talking about the fact that FSG are at the moment looking to spend money on infrastructure around Fenway, extending it, putting apartments in, a shopping complex and all that other stuff, because they believe that is it the Dodgers who are dominating in the MLB or Major League? I don't know much about baseball. That they don't want to invest too much into the squad because they believe that the Dodgers are going to have this era, and that when that's coming to an end, they'll look to, again, throw a load of dough in there. So I wonder if they've done the same thing with Liverpool, looking at Man City, between the charges, between the season they had last year, between Guardiola's uncertain future at the club after, his contract in the next 2 years. I just get the feeling that they feel now is the right time to strike and to put that investment in and to, back the manager in the market. That's my best guess at it. When your enemy is weak, you have to be strong. Yes, I mean, one of my favourite ever books is The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and certainly there's lots of little things from that we could put into this conversation. If that's true, it's not a bad approach. Absolutely. And that's what I want. Like we want to strengthen from a position of strength, and we want to strike fear into the opposition. So I agree. From that poll, what wages are they on? Good point. I would imagine Isak's going to want 250 upwards a week. Osimhen, I haven't got a clue. I don't even know what he's on now. Ekitike, he's probably wage-wise, I don't think Ekitike would be out of this world. You're probably talking mid 150, maybe towards 180. And Šeško, again, I would imagine you're talking 120, 140 maybe in wages, something like that. But, of course, I am guesstimating. But, yeah, I would imagine Isak would want big money. Like 250 upwards would be my guess there. Because if not, Newcastle could have offered him that. Do you rate Victor Gyökeres? Do you think he could be our solution? 1,000,000% he isn't going to come to Liverpool. I've said this for a year now, and I'm going to keep saying it because there's no chance in hell we sign him for a few reasons. One, his age. Two, the club will view he hasn't been tested in a high enough league. But would he be able to? Yeah, he might be. That's the funny part of it. I could see him coming in and scoring some goals, all right, but he's just not the one we're going to move for. The club just don't feel he is a guarantee. And I'm not saying you have to agree with that. I'm not saying I even totally agree with it, but that's kind of where we're at with him. I'd say if we get a good striker, we're definitely getting the league again. So would I. I think, dare I say it, we could win a double next year. Like the double next year. It takes a lot for me to actually come out and say that out loud because, it's very difficult to be that blasé about it. But look around, and the squad we're putting together should be more than capable of going out there and competing into the latter stages of the Champions League and, going all the way in the Premier League again. Why not? We're improving on what we already have. It's folly to write City off next year. They've been spending again. Well, I don't think anyone's writing them off, mate. I think what we're saying is, if you look at the calibre of this City group, it is not the City of old. And the signings they've made have been sloppy seconds, if we're being really blunt about this. They wanted Szoboszlai, we got him. They wanted Wirtz, we got him. They wanted Kerkez, we got him. So they've had to make do. Add to that the uncertainty over maybe potential points deductions or whatever other things come from the charges. Guardiola having 2 years max left at that club, and I certainly wouldn't be against thinking he might not even see out those 2 years. I don't think anyone's writing them off, but they just are not the same fearsome group that they were. Just nowhere near it, in my opinion. Would you not spend 60 on Watkins, already tried and tested? He's going for 30. It's just, look, I can understand the rationale behind it, but it would take a very big change of direction from the way our owners operate to go short-term thinking like that on Ollie Watkins. Even Robbie Fowler was saying similar to yourself. He'd take a punt on Ollie Watkins, but I just don't think with him heading for 30, that's something Liverpool are going to do when you're talking about upwards of 50 million quid. Any news on Bajcetic and his role? It'll depend on whether he's fit for pre-season or not, Luke. So we had the hamstring operation at the end of the season, and we just got to see if he's going to be ready and available for pre-season. If he is, he'll get a chance to show the manager what he can do. Any update on Marc Guehi? Not really. There's been a few bits and pieces today, but nothing that I would say is a huge update on Marc Guehi. A lot of people believe that Liverpool and Palace might end up shaking hands at around 40 million quid for Marc Guehi. But I think for me, the big news story, which isn't even so much a big news story, is the way I'd summarise it is this. I think there's a feeling and a belief that Isak isn't impossible. And that seems to be growing as each day goes by. And everybody is waiting to see how the conversations go between him and Newcastle when he comes off his end of season holiday. And that's when we'll probably see whether Liverpool push ahead or not. You know, if Newcastle are able to convince him and give him a contract that he's happy with, or that he thinks fits his stature and he likes the direction they're going in, maybe he stays. But if he gives any indication that he wants out, Liverpool will be there and ready to move. Would you buy John Duran? I wouldn't buy him, but I'd absolutely take an option of a loan for a year with an option to buy. You know, I think that would be an incredibly good loan signing. You know, he wants to move away from Al Nassr, at least for the time being in a World Cup year. He hasn't settled there, and, you know, mentally he doesn't seem to be right there. They're willing to loan him out for the season. So if I'm Liverpool, yeah, why wouldn't you look at John Duran as a potential option on loan with not an obligation, but an option to buy at the end of it? Absolutely. Certainly wouldn't be the worst bit of business in the world. Some of the players slot rotated last season weren't good enough when they did get given the chance. It's also really hard, though, for a player who isn't playing week in, week out to just kind of come in and hit the ground running. You know, you often hear managers, whether it be Arne or Jurgen, talking about rhythm. Players need to be in that match rhythm. My friend, I'm super hyped about the new season, and I'm looking forward to all these watch-alongs with you. Do you know what I was only thinking today? I miss doing the watch-alongs. You know, I can't wait to get back to doing them, because that's my favourite part of all of this, is doing the watch-alongs and, you know, reacting live with you guys in the stream. So, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to getting back to talking about football, because transfers are great and all, but there's nothing beats talking about a result or talking about an upcoming game and, you know, actually seeing the lads out there on the pitch. Right, ladies and gents, let's bring this poll to a close. We said, pick who you want. Isak for 150 million, Osimhen for 60-65 million, Ekitike for 85 million, or Šeško for 80. And it's still Isak. 54% of you guys and girls said that you would still go for Isak at £150 million. S4T said Newcastle have a hard no-sell stance on Isak, and so does Atletico and Alvarez. Why aren't we pushing as hard for Alvarez at this point as well? Because he doesn't want to come to England. You know, the reason that he moved from Manchester City was because his family or his partner couldn't settle, and the weather was, you know, too big of a culture shock to them. So for him, it's just a matter of him not wanting to come back to the UK. But, you know, when we're talking about Newcastle, have you not noticed something in the media, though? It's never been that Newcastle are flat out, absolutely 100% no chance in hell. There's always been a number. And the number has always been 150 million upwards. So there is almost an acceptance that there is a number that they would do business at. David said, Craig, I'm force feeding you broccoli when Isak comes. Best of luck. I'm going to bite your fingers if you try. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to go record the update and the roundup as well with a few of the bits and pieces in the late night video, which should be out in the next 20-25 minutes. Thank you again for joining me tonight. We're still awaiting the Milos Kerkez announcement, but just to reiterate once again, you've nothing to be concerned about. He will be a Liverpool player. He has signed the contract. It's just some red tape or some visa stuff that seems to be the hold up. A few technical issues as has been reported. So, yeah, again, incredible stream. Thank you all for your support. If you want to come and see us for our last show, again, you can get your tickets there with the QR code on the screen. It'll be in Liverpool Sunday, 19th of October, which is also the weekend of the Man United game, which I will be at, and I'm very happy to say that. Right, love you all the bits. We'll talk soon.